Well, I think we are getting a little closer to finding out when the NHL is going to return to play here. However, I think the smart thing to do right now is the NHL is trying to get some other business done at the same time before we get going and hopefully get playing again when it's deemed as safe as possible. That's all we have to stress here. So let's talk about some recent NHL updates here, as it sounds like it's not official yet, and I think it would all come together because they're also talking about extending the CBA here, which is definitely the smart thing to do right now, because both the players and the owners up to this point, before this global pandemic here with COVID-19, that both sides are making money here, and both sides are fairly happy with how things are going here. So it's definitely encouraging that right now that the league and the Players Association, I say the first time ever since Gary Bettman became commissioner of the NHL almost 30 years ago, believe it, that everybody is on side, and let's try to talk about maybe extending the CBA, because the current CBA is expected to expire after the end of the next season, the 2021 season there. And there's just many factors on why it makes sense to extend it here, because the fact that we are going through this now and trying to hammer out some other deals about what we're hearing right now is that the salary cap isn't going to go up, but it isn't going to go down, but it's going to stay steady for the next couple seasons. I know there was talk about getting the salary cap figured out for the next couple seasons so you can plan about it, but with revenues now going down here, league and the Players Association are also going to have to work out how they're going to defer maybe potential salaries or try to minimize the escrow where the players are definitely going to be giving more back to the league here. But that's definitely one thing, and still encouraging here. And what we're hearing right now is that potentially they're looking at adding 6 more years to the existing CBA here, so definitely bring it up to 2028 here. There's still lots of other details to be finalized here. I know there's word about the next 2 Winter Olympics that the NHL players are going to be going to that, as we know that the 2022 Winter Olympics are going to be in Beijing, China. So that definitely is another big market to potentially expose the NHL to. And then in 2026 here, well, I think Calgary would have gotten it if we wanted to go ahead with it. But it's going to be in Italy there. I think it's Campazza, Italy there. But it's going to be in northern Italy here. Hopefully history doesn't repeat itself for Team Canada 30 years later. Believe it or not, or not 30 years later, 20 years later, where things didn't go so well for Canada in Torino, Italy, but it sounds like maybe part of the CBA here, part of the give back here, is the players want to go participate in the next couple Olympics here. It's definitely going to be interesting how the schedule is going to work here, because the league shuts down for 2 weeks for it to happen, and other than the players that actually go, everyone else gets a break here. But with the return to play plan here for this season, to conclude this season, which I think once they come to a CBA agreement here, and it sounds like it's actually getting closer here, and of course you don't know about how many players are going to be on board. It's not going to be as unanimous here, because you're also hearing conflicting reports that maybe the players are leaning more towards not returning to play here too, but I think players are also going to be, some might be opting in or opting out here, because we're hearing that especially with Major League Baseball and potentially with the NBA right now on their return to play plans here, but we'll see how that turns out here. But it sounds like that Edmonton and Vancouver, and I kept thinking all along that the hub cities were either going to be both in Canada or in the U.S. here, just for travel reasons here. And I know that there will be a little exception for NHL players to get into the bubble here. And actually the theory that we're hearing with the NHL players, and once they get into this bubble here, the other hub city, Edmonton or Toronto here, that they're definitely going to be really, really isolated and hopefully, safe away from everything here, or at least be as isolated as possible. And then the other piece of the Edmonton and Toronto being the hub cities here, well, obviously Edmonton will host all of the west part of the bracket here, but when it comes to the conference championship and the Stanley Cup final here, that Edmonton's going to host those 2 rounds here. I guess it's all about managing the bubble here, and in theory here, once you have 12 teams in Edmonton and 12 teams in Toronto here, that once you get through the play-in round, assuming no outbreaks or anything happens here, as teams get eliminated here, the bubble gets smaller and smaller, where you have smaller groups to control and manage here, and hopefully the players, can try to stay within that bubble as much as they can. As we're hearing that if they get out there, they're just going to get sent home. But I think that's not going to officially be announced until the CBA here. But as they get back into the Olympics here, if this season is not going to end, well, it's definitely not going to end until October, as the dates that are throwing out here right now. Phase 3 would be the training camp, full training camp, because right now we're still in the voluntary, team facilities here, and there has been a few outbreaks where Tampa Bay got hit, and that facility's been reopened, and then recently it was actually St. Louis that just got shut down. As this recording, it was just reported that happened yesterday here, so you have to wait a couple days here, but we're still in the, still preliminary stages here. But July 13th is when the training camp will start here, where we got full training camps here, and as I understand, all the players for the Calgary Flames will all be skating around at the Saddledome here. And then on July 26th, that's when the teams will be going to their hub cities here. So let's say if Edmonton indeed officially is going to get named as the hub city here, so 2 weeks after the 13th there, the Calgary Flames will go up to Edmonton here, as well as the other western teams, and then the eastern teams for all the eastern side of the bracket will go to Toronto here, when officially those two cities will get officially named as hub cities here, and they're definitely the safest in terms of number of cases that are going on right now, because it's definitely been increasing in the U.S., and that's where the NHL got scared away from Nevada, because Vegas was considered as front runner the whole time here, and Vancouver was also considered a favorite there, but apparently the health authority in the NHL, which does raise some questions, when I mentioned that bill last week about, is it too strict, or are they not as economy there? So that's why eventually we're hearing that Edmonton and Toronto are going to be the hub cities here. And then August 1st is apparently when the play-in round is going to start here. So it's going to take a couple months to get through the whole tournament, assuming everything goes as planned here. And as we hear, some other leagues over in Europe, they're able to get their games in. I know Bundesliga was definitely one league that was able to do it in Germany there, that they're able to conclude the season once they get going here. So hopefully maybe there's some hope that would happen here, that if the NHL this season, which has definitely been a much longer season, because as we're recording here, under normal circumstances, Stanley Cup would have been awarded, the draft would have already happened, and then free agent frenzy would have already happened here, and the schedule for the next upcoming season would be coming out here. Should also throw in that I hear there's going to be one scrimmage game, one exhibition game that's going to be played before the tournament for the play-in round, or the top four for the top four seeds there. So, excuse me, that's all yet to be determined here, but that tells me that it's still going to be at least another 3 weeks to almost a month. Assuming everything goes as planned here, that I will be making my series preview with the Flames and Jets here. And then next season, which I hear that they're officially going to say business for the 2020-21 season won't start till November. So I guess that almost tells me that the draft would be in October. Maybe we'll finally find out. I hear August 12th is around where that time, where we'll find out where Alexis Lafreniere could be going, because I think that's when they'll figure out the other teams that got knocked out in the playing round. That's my understanding. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that's when we'll figure out who that placeholder team is, and then they figure out the draft order from there as the playoffs go on. But the draft won't happen until October. We're here November 1st, and then hopefully part of this CBA plan here is that they want to have a full 82 game schedule for the 2020-21 season here. And if it's not going to start till December or January here, I mean, you're going to have to really try to still pack it in, where hockey still won't end till August here, but then getting back into the Olympics, especially 2022, it would be like the season would be starting, and then they shut down for a couple weeks before they get back at it again, especially with the Olympics being in China there, and the time change there. But that's definitely going to be part of it here, that we heard we could be going back to the Olympics in 2022 and 2026 here. But basically that's just all the NHL updates that I have up to this point here, that we're hearing that very likely Edmonton and Vancouver are going to be the hub cities here, and just makes it easier if both hub cities are in one country here, so you don't have as much travel to deal with here. And I mean, everyone's going to be playing the first two rounds in the hub city here, and then only the east side will transfer to Edmonton for the conference championship and the Stanley Cup final here. Maybe one odd joke here is that Toronto gets shut out of the Stanley Cup again in terms of not hosting it here, because I know we all joke about Toronto here, but they not only have they not won the Stanley Cup since 1967, they have not been to the Stanley Cup finals since 1967, but this is all unusual circumstance here. I mean, who knows? Toronto could still win the Stanley Cup this year, and definitely be unusual under these circumstances, but that's all I have to say. I have my feelings on the NHL updates up to this point here, as we get into the first weekend of July here, and I have to say it's encouraging that at least we're still making progress here. I'm not jumping off the bridge yet if you're hearing about players testing positive or team facilities being shut down here, because this is all just voluntary. And then I mean, it's inevitable that, especially in some parts of the country here, especially down in the U.S., where players are out and about, they're not in the bubble yet. So until we get into that bubble stage, and if there's outbreaks, then we can start being a little worried here, but it is what it is. But we're still getting at least progressively closer to at least Absalak again. So what do you think of everything here? Do you like Edmonton, Toronto being potential as hub cities here? And what do you think about the CBA? I mean, definitely economics is definitely going to be very interesting here. I think there might be actually less of a frenzy if there's a flat cap, and if salaries are going to go down a little bit here. There's definitely going to be less money to be going around here, and I think some of the fringe players might be squeezed out even more from this. But we'll see what happens as we go forward here. So anyway, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey, home of the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, I mostly talk Calgary sports here, but I also have personal vlogs and attempt at comedy, and I do share my experience. Let's say I'm on the road or at a sport event here, so if it all sounds like it'd be interesting to watch, do follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey. You know what you need to do, as just hit like, subscribe. I also have my other social media links down in the description below there for other ways you can follow me, or if you get any plans or updates on this channel here. So as I say here, go Flames go, and I'll see you in the next video here.